Every so often, someone great comes along.
In StarCraft, I'm the Terran battlecruiser, battlecruiser operational.
Someone that inspires a generation.
How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? I'm the Terran Marine.
Someone with limitless creativity.
The original Ghost, I'm ghost reporting. I'm the original Ghost.
Someone that creates worlds.
I am Thrall.
This is a tribute to Chris Metzen.
Holy cow, this is gonna happen. We're gonna remember this moment, guys.
From the insurmountable highs,
you are about to get a glimpse into the future.
Reaching mountaintops that are impossible to revisit.
It sounds like you guys liked what you saw. It feels good to share this idea.
To the anxiety-inducing lows.
The answer is, my bad?
Forcing him to question his own talent.
The broad reality of kind of what had happened with, the Titan project. I started having panic attacks. There, can be a cost sometimes to running that hard.
Metzen's personal life has been well guarded, so we'll only be analyzing his role within the gaming industry. Most of his professional career has been under the large umbrella of Blizzard, so I'll do my best to read between the lines as to his individual contributions. So keep in mind that much of this tribute is speculation on my part and should not be taken as factual. Metzen, from the beginning, has been and always will be a man that loves and represents everything geek.
And he noticed that I had a lot of D&D stuff on the walls, and so he and I were immediately connected there, geeks.
He grew up playing tabletop and role-playing games with his peers. Like many of us, this was his preferred way to make friends and socialize.
Playing tabletop games, especially D&D, and it's a way we learn to socialize. It's a way we learn to be imaginative together, which has been a value that has, shaped my life in so many ways.
As many of you can relate, it can be a joy to be able to forge your own identity, separate from the challenges of the real world around us. These fantasy worlds can sometimes even be more appealing than our own lives. However, it can be incredibly easy to take these worlds for granted, not realizing how much time and effort went into the creation of it. Metzen was hired into Blizzard at the early age of 19.
I guess I was drawn on a cocktail napkin or something. A friend of a friend came by and saw it and said, hey, there's this place down in Costa Mesa hiring for artists. And I didn't really know what the place was. I thought it was like some kind of graphic arts firm. But at the time I figured, hey, if they're gonna pay me to draw, that sounds pretty good. And I rolled down on a Friday morning and I put, some of my drawings down on the desk, and he went and got the boss, a guy named Alan Adham. And he invited me back. We talked for a little bit, and he asked me if I wanted a job.
This wasn't the Blizzard we all know and love today. This was long before Blizzard became a household name. Nevertheless, it was the right place for Chris Metzen.
I just knew that the place I'd walked into and all the people that I met that day, like that was, it was home.
Little did he know the bright future that was in front of him at this time. Chris was never the most technically advanced person, but what he lacked in technical know-how, he more than made up for in creativity and artistic vision. Chris started as an artist for several games.
The first thing I worked on for Blizzard was Justice League Task Force. It was a Street Fighter type game we were doing with superheroes, which just lit me up like a Christmas tree.
After this, Blizzard moved him to work briefly on Lost Vikings 2. It was around this time that the industry-wide shift from 2D to 3D was starting to take place.
I remember being very intimidated by the program. So I'm like, oh no, I hope I can keep this job. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this.
Although Chris was experiencing his struggles just like many others, he remained committed and dedicated to perfecting his craft. Before long, Blizzard shifted Metzen to Blizzard's new IPs, StarCraft and Warcraft.
My name's Chris Metzen. I'm a senior designer here at Blizzard.
I'm Chris Miller, associate producer here at Blizzard Entertainment.
Well, pretty much the overall backstory on StarCraft stems around the pivotal race of the Protoss. Protoss are really advanced, highly intellectual race of pretty serious critters. They're physically they're just about the baddest dudes around, and they're tremendous psychic power. And pros pretty much oversee a lot of the finer workings of the galaxy.
Warcraft Adventures: Lore of the Clans is our latest installment in the Warcraft universe of games. It's a pretty epic adventure game, loosely in the LucasArts style adventure games. It pretty much expands upon the story that has been built so far within our strategy games, and pretty much picks up where the expansion set left off.
Pretty much some of the main features of the adventure game. It's got at least 60 locations within 7 of the different world regions. It's got over 70 characters, many of which have shown up or have been mentioned in the ongoing conversation in the strategy games. Warcraft Adventures: Lore of the Clans will be available this holiday season on Mac, PC, CD-ROM for a very low price, and it absolutely rocks balls, so go buy it.
The gifted visions began to brew within Metzen. It wasn't long before his suggestions and ideas were beginning to get him noticed. Starting as an artist late in the game's development, Metzen quickly made an impression on the development team.
When I got hired at Blizzard, the computer stuff always really was very intimidating to me. So I started writing, and the boss kind of saw what I was doing and went, I think this kid has some potential.
Though we may not know exactly how much Metzen contributed to the project of Warcraft, we all know how successful the game was. Warcraft, Orcs and Humans became a monumental success, selling over 100,000 copies of the game within 1 year of launch, eventually reaching figures 3 times this amount. StarCraft went on to be an international success, helping to create an entire culture revolving around professional esports in Korea. And Diablo would become a leader of the action RPG genre, creating a legion of devoted fans, many of whom still play today. And although these games were not the first of their genres, they put the Blizzard touch on each of these games and made them with impeccably high quality. They were made distinct, approachable, and appealing, thankfully in part due to Chris Metzen. But this was nothing compared to the future contributions Chris was about to make.
Around the time that we started jamming Warcraft 2, I remember feeling very intensely that, wouldn't it be fun to blow this thing out, really, to have multiple kingdoms and continents and, more races involved, each with their own kind of distinct flavor and history.
Chris has a mind capable of developing some of the most immersive and engaging lore and characters. When the world and its lore is something that is universal to all players, it becomes increasingly important that it's designed by someone with a truly remarkable gift and tenacity for developing engrossing and enticing elements. Chris believes in giving everything to his passion, to his project, and to his team. It has shown countless times over his work and through the respect he gained from his fans and peers. Through countless pieces of artwork to entire continents and worlds, characters complete with voices and backstories, Chris used the gift he was given and shared it with the world. After the tremendous success of Warcraft, the passion and vision of Chris Metzen quickly pushed him into a larger role as the story designer and major voice actor within the company of Blizzard.
Ultimately, there were many years between Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3. We had cut our teeth on a few other game types or universes that allowed us to grow and really get our storytelling values in line. We knew who we were as artists. We knew who we were as storytellers. And the ideas came much freer and much clearer. And it definitely had heart. So by the time Warcraft 3 really came about, we were ready to attack that thing. It was a very organic thing to look at the world that was taking shape in terms of the Warcraft 3 product and really translating those ideas to a much more open-ended, real-time world. So in many ways, they were kind of co-developed. By the time we put out the original WoW, It was just one of those game worlds that really knew what it was. And I think that was part of the vibe that people experienced when they jumped into the product. They just felt like, just every rock feels like it's placed with love and care. Everyone here truly loves these products. That's a big deal. You know, how many companies in the world, you go to work, you have a great job, you pay the bills. I don't know how many places there are out there where people truly believe in what they're doing. That many places that truly engender the level of pride that you associate, with that logo, that little blue logo. It means a lot to me.
Before long, Chris was the go-to guy for general game and character lore. And he delivered. Chris became one of the single biggest contributors to Blizzard as a whole throughout each of their primary IPs.
It always feels like there's a little bit of Metzen and his life in these games. There always seems to be just a little bit of Metzen blood and all that stuff. Do you believe that? Like, is that something? Because we all say it, but does Chris Metzen believe that?
Oh yeah, it's undeniable. There's a lot of me in those stories across all those worlds. Yeah, I knew it at the time. Yeah, there's a lot of me, I think, in those stories over time.
And when it was time to design the giant that became known as World of Warcraft, Chris Metzen was at the forefront of it all, helping to create the world that millions have come to know and love. Little did they know the absolute colossus they were creating with WoW, the game that would revolutionize the PC gaming industry.
So we bugged Chris so much. He broke out these acrylic paints and he painted a map of Azeroth on the wall. And it was just his way of saying, guys, this is the map of the world. He just did it.
And we were testing it, and we were looking at each other in the eye going, it's super fun. We're super in.
And Chris rode the wave of success that WoW brought the company, continuing to revitalize and refresh it each year.
Where do we go next? Warcraft had always been in the interactive space of video games, kind of compared to Tolkien or other fantasy settings that we had all grown up playing games within, Dungeons and Dragons, things like that. I had a fire in my gut, desperately wanting to prove that we were not old hat, that we were not the same old thing, that our world could stand up and take you to places that you would not expect.
Due to much of the game's direction and vision being led by Metzen, it allowed WoW to keep its reign of supremacy for years to come, spawning a sea of copycats and rivals hoping to create the fabled WoW killer.
It was definitely not the same old thing. And it was funny at the time, kind of walking the team through this idea, especially the artists, and they're all just going, what the hell,
Chris is like, I want to break everything. And I remember thinking like, dude, like what? Like, is this the end of Warcraft, right? And he's pitching the idea and everyone's kind of like got this like, really? Like, the game's doing really good, you want to break it?
To many of us, Blizzcon became synonymous with Chris Metzen. His time speaking at the yearly events was often the highlight of the entire event.
Geek is yelling. Slow down. Geek is this guy. Geek is. Geek is remembering that there is, in fact, no spoon. Geek is what kind of jackass rolls out wearing a lion sweater and carrying a doom hammer? This kind of jackass. I'm exactly that kind of jackass. There's something about the idea of Thrall and Zeratul fighting back to back that just geeks me up. I love you, man. I love you too, man.
Between the unveiling of the newest projects, answering panel questions, and simply sharing his passion with the world, his charisma and character left impressions on millions. After years of contributing to WoW's world and storyline, eventually it was time for Chris to move on to bigger and better things. Enter Titan. Following the genre-defining success of WoW, Chris and the development team had an absolutely massive pair of shoes to fill. Unfortunately, we may never know what really happened behind the scenes in the development process of Titan. But we do know it was the beginning of the end for the relationship between Blizzard and Chris Metzen.
You know, Titan going south was the result of a number of years that we had spent on it. And without giving too many details away, those were very frustrating years for me, not just because of Titan itself, but it was a contributor. We had reported before, we just, we couldn't pull it together. We couldn't, agree or move forward in bold fashion. During those years, I burned out really hard. I think in my heart, I needed a change in my life. I wanted to slow down. I wanted to just not carry the weight of it all and the expectation of it all anymore. I want to do well for each other. Titan was so heartbreaking in many ways. Like the only way forward was to lift each other up and pull together in a way, and be vulnerable with each other. And in so many ways, that's what shot Titan down is maybe too many people protecting their own visions and their own instincts for what it should be when there was so much expectation on it. And I think it was a group of people that just stopped communicating and stopped developing and chasing ideas for the sheer joy of doing it together, which had served us so well on everything else we'd ever built. We fractured. On another front, Kat and I had a baby coming. Gonna be 43. On the back of my head, I'm overjoyed that this kid's on the way. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I wouldn't have admitted this to myself at the time. I'm so burned out. Like, oh God, how will I do well for this kid? And I finally realized what it was. I went to, finally, went to see a professional, and the doctor's like, yeah, dude, you're messed up. I think I just need to stop. As much as I love everything we're working on at the job and all these amazing, it's like these arrows that we had fired years before, we're finally about to hit the bullseye of the movie, Legion, Overwatch, all these things were just about to be done and come out. The terrible thought was I need to stop. I had many of those, but many fears, I guess, that I didn't realize were there under the surface that I had been carrying a long time. Fear of failure. Some people call it these days imposter syndrome, that I'm really not as good at my proficiencies as people think, and I know I'm just going to fail. I'm going to let them all down, and I'm going to fail the team, and how will I live with myself? I just would go through this stuff over and over. How good is security? And this is totally irrational, right? But what if someone's really angry that we nerf their shaman? And as crazy as that sounds, like that's the kind of stuff that would occur to me. This be a stupid place to get shot, or a perfect place to get shot. Like that's not me. It was just this weird fear thing that started coming up.
Chris wanted the world to experience what he had in his mind. And more importantly, he wanted to give the fans something that he himself would have wanted to play, while also living up to the impossibly high standards of World of Warcraft. And knowing how much he contributed to other Blizzard IPs, I'm sure Metzen gave even more into the project since he seemed to be the head of it during its development. Knowing how much Chris Metzen puts his heart and soul into projects, I believe Chris simply put too much of himself into this project and stretched himself too thin. He invested everything he had into this project, and he began to feel the weight of Blizzard's giant shadow looming behind him. This may have been due to involvement with Activision, or any number of different variables down the line. Regardless, due to uncertain direction and perhaps conflicting visions, the project known as Titan was cancelled. After having spent years developing a game that would never see the light of day, this became the final straw for Metzen. The weight had finally taken a toll on his mental health.
This is how I remember it. It was almost like 4 or 5 days of consistent panic, not just anxiety. I mean, like my nervous system was shot.
After all of the change that has occurred in our company and all the growth, the globalization, it's a very different kind of company these days as it was, way back in the day.
Good Lord, there's a lot of people here. I barely stopped shaking, so I apologize if I flip out. It's gonna be fine. We are gonna make it through this together.
Who would I possibly be if I lay down this identity, if I lay down these responsibilities? I was petrified that my glass house of performance and making everybody feel real good would just collapse. And I guess the terror of what is on the other side. Who am I on the other side? I kind of needed to stop. I've got nothing left, and I'm losing myself in it. And at that time, I didn't know how much I had left in the tank to be creative director or creative leader. Summon the hooks, get everybody fired up, keep them held together, and hold the torch up. And I guess in my mind, I had romanticized it as one last charge at the wall. Let's do this thing. And what motivated me was love for my friends and love for Blizzard.
Fortunately, it seemed that not all of Metzen's efforts were in vain, and this granted Metzen what many consider the highlight of his career.
We have shared, over the years, many adventures together. Exotic worlds, heroes and villains, probably some convoluted plot lines here and there, it's fine. And at a moment like this, it strikes me, it has been something like 17 years since Blizzard opened the door to a new adventure. Since we opened the door to a new world of heroes and villains, a new universe of adventure and possibility. I think 17 years is too long to wait. And my friends, the wait ends right now. Holy cow, this is going to happen. We're going to remember this moment, guys. You are about to get a glimpse into the future. So my friends, get a load of this. We hope you love it like we do. I'll see you on the other side. Holy cow, that's a feeling.
After seemingly being granted permission to finally relax from his family, and more important himself, he finally felt ready. I had just turned 20 years old when I started working at Blizzard. Seems like a lifetime ago. Guess it was. Those first few years were the start of a very grand adventure for me. One that would take me around the world, introduce me to thousands of wonderful geeks just like me, and ultimately shape the course of my adult life. Of course, when I started, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to make games or build entertainment products. But I had an insatiable passion for ideas, for stories, for heroes. My only real training before joining Blizzard was the long-running D&D campaign I had with my closest friends, Sam, Mike P, Daniel, and Mikey C. You know who you are, boys. Building ideas, vast workscapes, characters, and plotlines with my friends was my first great love. I lived for it. It was the safe space amid the tension and change of some rough teenage years. The grand refuge of D&D was a glorious meeting of minds and imaginations where I felt I truly belonged. It was a space where friendship and imagination were inextricably linked. The sharing of ideas on the fly, the crazy, unexpected turns other players would take. It stretched our imaginations in ways we'd never dreamt on our own. I loved how role-playing through adventures taught us so much about each other, and, more often than not, ourselves. Imagining together helped us make sense of the crazy world we were growing up in. It made us stronger together. I wouldn't really understand the depth of it for many years, but I had learned an important truth from my friends back then. Creativity is relational. Looking back at my years at Blizzard, I see now how profoundly this idea has shaped my career. I see how profoundly my friends and coworkers at Blizzard have shaped me as a person. For nearly 23 years, I've had the very distinct privilege of shaping worlds and building games with the brightest creative minds in entertainment. I've walked with giants and stood on some giants' shoulders too. In short, I've had the time of my life. I pretty much had the coolest job ever, but the truth is, sometimes it was really hard. Building games with dozens of brilliant, passionate alpha geeks with their own red-hot instincts and perspectives can be pretty tricky. Coming to consensus about certain design decisions, story motifs, or courses of art direction takes a lot of communication, patience, and give and take. It stretches you. Sometimes it wasn't all that pretty, but engaging with your teammates and collaborating through the potential quagmire of all the creative tension is where the real magic happens. It's not just the decisions you come to or even the final shape of the product you craft. It's bigger than that, and infinitely more important. True collaboration builds trust, and trust is the basis of all lasting relationships. With trust, you build more than just a great product. You build a tribe that can build anything. A family of craftsmen. That's what Blizzard has been for me. My second family. Through all of life's ups and downs, it has always been there. The great geeky backdrop of my life. I don't just mean the job or even the creative mission, but the people. The people who over and over lifted me up, believed in me, and pushed me to find my potential as both an artist and as a leader all these years. To my Blizzard brothers and sisters, I wish I had the words. Everything just sounds trite. All I can think of is, you helped me believe in myself and achieve every one of my wildest dreams. I am forever grateful to you. I love you all with everything I've got. Thank you. And to all of you out there in Blizzard's vast gaming community, those of you I've had the pleasure of meeting in person, and all of you around the world I've only heard about, thank you. Thank you for letting me be a special part of your community, for letting me belong with you. We've shared countless adventures together, and I've always been overwhelmed and humbled by your passion for our games, as well as your commitment to each other. Thank you for all the BlizzCon hugs, smiles, handshakes, and stories over the years. You will never know how much you've touched my heart and inspired me to give my all into this craft. With that said, I'll try to get down to the point here. I've come to a turn in the road. A new, far quieter chapter in my life looms ahead. I am retiring. Yup. Hanging up my guns, clocking out. Taking the last Griffin out of Stormwind. You get the picture. Crazy, I know. It's a massive change for me, but it's one I've been looking forward to for a while now. It's ironic given the fact that things have never been better or more energized at Blizzard. Just this year alone has been incredible. Legion's arrival, the launch of Overwatch, the Warcraft feature film. I've never been more proud of Blizzard and the quality of its products than I am now. It's remarkable that even after all these years we can still reach new heights and take the world for an amazing ride. I believe Blizzard's future is brighter than ever. I won't lie, it's going to be really hard stepping away from all these worlds that I love, but I'm content that I'm leaving them in the hands of the most passionate, talented, and dedicated craftsmen ever assembled. I can't wait to see where Blizzard's worlds go next, and to experience them firsthand like everyone else does, as a fan, as an adventurer, right back at the start. That's just so cool. The reason I use the word retire is because I'm not going to some other company or starting up new projects or anything remotely like that. It's been a long, amazing stretch of years. Now it's time to slow it down, rest, lay around on my couch and get fat. Well, fatter. Seriously though, I'll be focusing on the one thing that matters most to me in this world, my family. They're the core of my life and the source of my deepest joy and inspiration. In addition to raising our 2 little daughters, we recently welcomed our new baby to the family. Being home with them all, having time and space to really live, to love my wife with all my strength, that's my career now. And I've never been happier. Ever. Peace out, y'all. I love you all. I'll see you online. Chris. This was not the end of Metzen's journey. Over the next couple of years, Chris audited his life and truly made the most out of it. But the storm of creativity still brewed within him.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Chris Metzen.
And I am Mike Gilmartin.
And Mike and I have something pretty cool to share with y'all today. We have started a grand adventure together.
As a co-founder and chief creative officer, Warchief Gaming has a bright future ahead of itself. We're excited to see the future for Metzen and his creations, both new and old. Thank you for all you've provided us with, Chris. We'll see you online.
leaving Blizzard was an incredibly difficult thing. I'd been there since essentially I was a kid. I think I was like 19 when I got hired. It was my whole life. It was my identity, and it was in many ways all consuming. And it allowed me to kind of realize all the dreams I had and aspirations I had, when I was a kid. It was just incredible. But there, can be a cost sometimes to running that hard.
Geeks love to break stuff down and, disassemble the radio and put it back together. And that's kind of part of the fun of being nerdy. Fan art and fanfic and where might this go and this and that. That's glorious. It is essentially creative. It is essentially relational. I'll tell you, dude, I don't have any special insight into how this is all going to play out. I ducked out about 2 years ago. Literally the last Warcraft thing I worked on was the intro where Andiun does the big res. The events that are playing out now, which I've had a blast with, are, to me, I'm one of y'all. I'm a fan. I'm playing it, watching it, experiencing it for the first time. Yeah, I'm just a civilian, dude. So it's like, hell yeah, bring Thrall back. I think it was Arn. One of the guys had done sketches of that character. There's plenty of characters that have come out since I've been gone that were totally new. Orisa and Moira, that I had never even heard. They simply were not discussed during my time. They're completely new expressions. Wrecking Ball was one of those. It was like an early concept. What if there was this ball and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So it pleased me that that old idea got done so well.
Yeah. They found a way to do it. It's awesome.
But it is fun watching, kind of watching these games roll out and how things take shape, and it's just absolute joy.